Hey YouTube, this is a video showing how easy it is to connect a Roland MT-32 MIDI synthesizer to a new computer running Windows 7. The Roland MT-32 was really popular with older games, or older PC games anyway. Specifically, most people remember playing games like the ones made by Sierra or by LucasArts, and it gives you much higher quality music than what the standard ad-lib and even the Sound Blaster would produce. It is MIDI, and so it definitely sounds like MIDI. It doesn't sound super realistic or anything like that, but it's still better than what you could get out of most of the games back then, because that was really before games had CD audio or CD soundtracks and things like that. So first we'll take a quick look at the MT-32 itself. This is the unit. Here's the display. When it's turned on, it's backlit with a really cool green light. It's just a standard LCD display. Some games, whenever they send if they use custom instruments or things like that, they send over a message. Like when you play Space Quest 3, it'll say insert Buckazoid, which Buckazoid is the type of money that they use in that game. Over here you've got your select or volume knob. This is, for the most part, this is all you use most of the time. Here you've got volume buttons, which you can use. You'd hit volume and select the channel that you wanted to use, and you can use this to adjust the volume for that specific channel. And then you have a master volume, which adjusts the total output volume that the unit can do. This also has a really awesome reverb effect, and you usually don't want to turn it up super high, but some reverb makes the soundtrack sound really awesome. And now if we take a look at the back, here's the power button. You just push it in to turn it on. This is where the power adapter plugs into. These are the Midi ports on it, so you've got MIDI in, MIDI out, and MIDI through. Unless you're actually composing MIDI music, then the only one you really need to use is the MIDI in port. Then over here we've got the audio out jack, and so this is how you actually get the audio from this unit to something that you can listen to. So you need a way to connect these ports to your computer or to headphones or whatever you're using. This is one of the original revisions of the MT-32. They've got essentially 3 revisions. There are 2 that look exactly like this on the back. The first model, which is what this is, it has a different processor inside, and that causes it on some games, just a few of the games, to where it has issues receiving the custom MIDI information, which causes a buffer overflow. Whereas the other 2 models that have the different CPU inside there, they can handle faster signals, but most games don't really need that. And there are some games that only sound correct when they use this older version of the unit, and there are some games that only sound correct when they use the newer version. So you can't really go wrong with whichever one you want. The benefit of getting the last model they made was it also has a headphone jack on the back, and so that makes it easy to get stereo out of a single plug. Now, before I show you how I'm going to hook this up to my computer, I'm going to show you what you used to have to use. So in the older DOS days, you had to get something like this, which this is the box for a Roland MPU IPC. This is, I think the original version of this was just called MPU 401 or something, but this IPC is essentially a way to get the MIDI ports on the back to interface with a computer. And to do that, part of this MPU IPC is this interface card. This is an ISA card, and on this back you've got a port right here. And so whenever you play old computer games and you select that you want to use the Roland MT-32 with that, the game will automatically try to load its driver to interface with this card. So you don't have to load any extra software for this. The game is completely in control, and it has to load its own software to be able to use this. And so you just have to have that installed, and then you've got your port on the back. Then on the back, what you plug into that port is this cable right here, and on the other end of this cable is the MIDI processing unit itself. And so you've got you've got a couple outs, in case you're using this for actually composing music. You have metronome inputs and things like that. So all you really have to use with this thing is, I mean, you connect a MIDI cable here directly to the unit. So this goes to your computer, this plug, then you've got this sitting here, and then you have a cable connecting to the MIDI out of this, running to the MIDI in on this unit. And so that's where a lot of people get confused with connecting these, because you have to connect the out to the in and the in to the out and things like that. And so, you know, MIDI can kind of throw people off, but it's really logical if you think about it, because I mean, everything's accurately labeled. You just have to think about the flow of the data and where it's going. Now, the way I'm going to hook this up to my computer, which is running the 64-bit version of Windows 7, is with this little unit. This is made by Roland. You can get different ones out there. There are different manufacturers that produce these things, but this is the one that Roland makes, and it's called the UM-1EX. And on one end you've got the USB plug, and on the other end you've got these two MIDI plugs. And so normally the plugs are labeled MIDI in or MIDI out, but on this one they're really conveniently labeled as connect to MIDI in and connect to MIDI out. And so you know exactly where these go, and it's not going to confuse anybody. Now, normally when connecting this to, like with the old IPC unit, I would have to have a real MIDI cable running from that unit, from the IPC unit into here. So I'd connect the MIDI out from the IPC into the MIDI in on here. But since we're going to be using this little device, I'm just going to find the one that says connect to MIDI in, and I'm going to connect that to MIDI in. And then this one says connect to MIDI out, and I'm going to connect that to MIDI out. The MIDI out isn't necessary because you're not trying to send any MIDI data from this unit anywhere else. The only purpose for this when you're playing games is to receive the MIDI data over this port, so it knows how to play music and then sends it out through the two stereo channels. The left channel is a mono channel, so if you only have one cable hooked up to that, you'll just get you'll get both channels mixed into one, and so you'll still have all the sounds, but you won't have it in stereo. The way you get these two big 1/4-inch jacks connected to your PC is you have to get a cable like this. This is a single cable right here. So this end of the cable has an 1/8 inch headphone jack. This end has a 1/4 inch headphone jack. Both ends of this are mono. What we do is take this, we're going to plug it into the left channel on here. And so now what do? Well, we have to get something like this. This is an adapter that takes two mono 1/8 inch jacks and merges them into this stereo 1/8 inch jack. And so if you compare the two ends here, let me zoom in, you can tell that the one on the right is mono because it's got, essentially it's ground and then that's the signal, whereas on this one it's ground, then that's probably right, and then that would be left channel. So this has got 3 connectors on it, whereas this one only has 2. Now, since I've got this plugged up to the left, or the mono channel, we look on the back here, and if you notice, one of the plugs is kind of red and one is silver. The red is the right channel and the silver is the left channel. So we're going to plug that up to the left channel just like that. And then we just do the same for the other cable. So this is going to be the right channel, and it's going into the right plug. So now we've got this little adapter here with a 1/4 inch jack, which you could plug into the line in port on your computer. And so that's how you get the audio from here into your computer. Now, earlier I was mentioning how some units have a headphone jack right there. That's where having a headphone jack would make this easier, because you don't have to mess with having an adapter like this. You could just get a stereo 1/4 inch headphone plug with an 1/8 inch on the other side, and you'd be set. Now the last thing to connect here is the power cable. So we've got that connected now. Now I'm going to plug in the USB cable for my MIDI to USB adapter into my computer. I've already got the drivers loaded, by the way, but you know, if you buy one of these and you need the drivers for some reason, you can get them off of Roland's website. Okay, so we are connected there. Now I still need to plug the audio into my computer, and so I've got a little extension thing that I've made. So right here, this is a mini, 1/8 inch plug that splits into two RCA jacks, and I've got two female RCA jacks that convert into this female 1/8 inch, and that's just because these are all the cables I had available to me. I could probably go find some online or whatever, but normally you don't want to go through this many converters like so, because every single time there's a connection like that, it's possible that you're going to lose some sound quality, or you can get static or noise. And so the fewer of these that you have to use, the better off you are. So try to get cables with that in mind. So anyhow, now we turn the unit on. I don't know if you can see that, but it said Roland MT-32 on the little display. And whenever you turn the volume knob here, you can see the volume change. That defaults to the master volume. Yep. So anyhow, also some games, whenever they start playing, the audio might not be super loud, and it's because it might through the MIDI signal adjust the master volume signal. And so if you just turn the volume down to whatever that volume setting was, usually I just turn it all the way down and then just turn it all the way back up, then that'll fix the audio for you. Okay, hope this shows up correctly for you. So now we're going to launch Dosbox. This version that I'm using was created by somebody named YKH Wong, and you can get this version at ykhwong.x-y.net. I like this one because it has the menus up at the top. So anyhow, the first thing you need to do once you get into Dosbox is you type mixer /list MIDI, and you press enter. And essentially what you get here is a list of all your MIDI devices that are attached to your computer. These aren't like virtual devices or anything. These are your real hardware, what you've got, what Windows 7 sees. And so mixer number 0 is the default Microsoft MIDI table, which is crap. And then number 1 is the UM-1. So that's that USB converter that I had attached earlier in the video. And so what we need to do is, in this version you can actually go up here to sound and hit MIDI, then go down to advanced, and here under Midi Config, that's where you change the 0 and the 1. This is where you choose your mixer, and so I've already got it set to 1, but you would change it to whatever number your UM1 or whatever your USB to MIDI device shows up as. This will always reset itself though, and the way you can work around that is you go into the Dosbox folder where you've got it stored, and you open this file called dosbox.conf, and that contains the Dosbox configuration file. So we just open that in a text editor, which I'm using Notepad, and if you hit Control F and type Midi Config, press enter a few times, you'll find it in the list. So here it is. So right now I've got Midi Config set to 1 because that's what mine is, and so you would change that to whatever number your MIDI device is, and then you just save this file. And so every time Dosbox opens at that point, it'll automatically set this setting to the Midi Config setting to 1, so it'll automatically be all set to use your MT-32. Also, just this doesn't have anything to do with the MT-32, but in Dosbox I keep all of my games in a folder called root, and so that's, you know, those are all my games. And so at the end of the Dosbox configuration file, I've got this line right here. That's the first line is mount C root, and so it mounts a C drive using the root folder as its base, and then has C colon right there. So the benefit of that is right when Dosbox starts, I'm already sitting at the C drive, and it's got the root folder mounted as the C drive. So if I do a directory listing, I'll see all my games right there. So it's kind of like it's already set up like a real DOS computer would be, because normally you'd have all your games just sitting there unless you were super organized. So anyhow, since I've already got that set up, we can go to see. Let me find another game we can test other than Space Quest 3. Okay, so now we can test a game here. We'll try Ultima 6. I'm going to change the sound over to something other than the MT-32 just so you can hear the difference first. Alright, and we're going to use Adlib for this. Okay, so that's Ultima 6 on Adlib. Now I gotta run the installer again so we can change the settings back to my MT-32. And now we'll try the game. So anyhow, you can see that if you're into old PC gaming, these are very worth it to pick those up, because you know there's a lot of cool game soundtracks that they had back then, and you really get to hear the best version using one of these Roland MT-32s. I'll show you one of my favorite songs from this game. This song. try something here. See if this sounds like connected directly to my camera.